An astronaut looking back at our planet from the surface of the moon described it as an oasis in the desert of space. Today we're talking about one of the sources of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, which is the spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which remind us to celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. There's a parable that's probably apocryphal that's told about 3 Native American shamans who are gathered on a mesa in the desert. And the shaman from the Apache tribe says, you know, in my tribe, whenever it hasn't rained for a long time, someone starts beating the drums. And we all start to dance. And we call this dance the rain dance. The other said, oh, that's wonderful, that's amazing. Does it work? And the Apache shaman says, well, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The next person to speak was a Navajo, a shaman from the Navajo tribe. And he says, that reminds me of something we do in my tribe. Whenever someone is very sick and none of the medicines seem to be working, we put that person in the center of the village and somebody starts playing the drum. And we all start to dance. We call the dance the healing dance. The others say, that's pretty amazing. Does it work? Well, said the shaman, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The Hopi shaman said, well, that reminds me of something we do in my tribe. Every morning, while it's still dark outside, all the people of the village gather around and somebody starts playing the drums. And we start to dance. And we dance, and we dance, and we dance, until the sun comes over the horizon, turning darkness into light. And we call this dance the sunrise dance. And you know the best thing about it? It works every time. The parable illustrates what earth-affirming traditions teach. To appreciate the miracles that work every time. To appreciate the rhythms of nature and the cycles of life, to appreciate things like a sunrise or a sunset or the 4 seasons, winter and summer, fall and spring, the cycles and seasons of life. The transcendentalist Henry David Thoreau said that he never expected to see a plant to spring up where there had never been a seed, but if you could convince him that there was a seed, he had great faith in a seed, and he was prepared to believe in miracles. The earth-affirming traditions remind us to have faith in a seed, to see the miracles that are possible in the ordinary. Albert Einstein once said that there are 2 ways to look at life. You can look at life like there's no such thing as miracles, or you can look at it as if everything is a miracle. And the earth-affirming traditions remind us to look at life and appreciate that everything is a miracle, to see the miraculousness of it. One of the principles in the Unitarian Universalist tradition is we affirm the interdependent network of existence of which we are a part, the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. That we are just a thread in this tapestry of life. We aren't the dominant force. We're just a thread in the tapestry of life. Everything is interdependent. If we appreciate the interdependence of things, we know that, that oasis in the desert of space, if you take a person out of the atmosphere, out into space, well, we would perish. We are dependent. We are interdependent with all things on the earth, the air we breathe, the water we drink. In the Unitarian Universalist Church, we say we like to find common ground and work for the common good. And the common ground we share is literally the ground under our feet, the air we breathe, the water we drink. This interdependent web of existence, once we appreciate it, we know that trees function as lungs outside of our body. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. They breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. We are dependent on trees just as we are dependent on our lungs. An airplane is part of nature. Humans are also part of nature. And so we hear the sounds of an airplane, even as we hear the sounds of birds. So once we appreciate nature, we can see the sacredness of nature. Now, medieval theologians used to say there are two books in which we could read the Word of God. One of them is the Bible, and the other is the book of nature. So nature is not only a source of beauty, a source of wonder, it is a sacred text. It is a revelation. So much so that the 19th century minister Theodore Parker said the earth is the oldest testament. It's the oldest source about the wisdom of the universe. So if you appreciate the rhythms, the sacredness of life, then you can understand how different religious traditions have combined in some of the ceremonies that we do. So you know, in December, when it's dark and we have rituals of lighting candles in our sanctuary, and we decorate the sanctuary with evergreen trees and holly and ivy. These are ancient earth-affirming traditions that predate Christianity. And in the Easter, when we have an Easter egg hunt and we have the Easter bunny, and the Easter is actually the name of a goddess, you have these ancient earth-affirming traditions that sort of well up and are part of our traditions. The rhythm of a year, where we acknowledge winter solstice and summer solstice, and the autumn equinox and the spring equinox, capturing the cycles and seasons of life through earth-affirming rituals. One of the oldest monotheistic religions comes from Egypt, and it was worshiping the sun. And here was the revelation. People observed that the sun rises and sets on everyone. It doesn't distinguish between enemies of friends. It crosses every border. It is bigger than any nation. It is bigger than any territory. So this observation about how nature works led to a larger thought of God. Here in East Tennessee, the Cherokee were here before us. And the Cherokee say that trees are wiser than us. Trees are smarter and wiser than us. And the way we know this is because trees remain silent. And so one of the earth-affirming traditions that I periodically do in our church is I'll take people on a hike, and we'll go out in the woods and we'll sit quietly and silently, and we'll let the earth be our sanctuary. We'll let trees be the columns of our cathedral. We'll let the light shining through the leaves be our stained glass windows. We'll let the birds be our choir. We'll let the stones be our pews and be our altars, and appreciate the sacred beauty of creation and live into this idea of nature as sanctuary. Western religions often speak of our Father who art in heaven. And the native traditions remind us that the earth is our mother. And what befalls the earth befalls the children of the earth. If we spit on the ground, we spit on ourselves. If we treat the earth badly, we treat ourselves badly. And so that is one of the really important reasons why we believe in the earth-affirming traditions. Now, my sister had an idea for a novel. She never wrote it, but it's a brilliant idea. And the idea was that Jesus had a sister. And while Jesus told people to love your neighbor as yourself and do unto others as you would have them do unto you, Jesus' sister taught people how to care for the earth, how to care for nature, how to care for the natural world. And because she was a woman, nobody listened to her, and we forgot about her, and no one pays attention to her teachings. I just thought that was a brilliant kind of idea for a story to explain the need for balance that we have in our spiritual lives. I once told that story, and a member who is an eco warrior, a great environmental activist, came up to me and said afterwards, she said, "I've never felt so close to Jesus as I do now." And I think of Michelle often as Jesus's little sister. And I think anytime we live into the ethic of caring for the earth, we're living into a sacred mission that's an important part of who we are. We find common ground and we work for the common good. And we do that in concrete ways, putting solar panels on our roof, rewiring our church to make sure that we reduce our global footprint. In tangible ways, we work to protect the earth, which is an oasis in the desert of space.